Okay.
So I'm David Sowers. I'm with the Washington State DOT and the Alaskan Way Viaduct Replacement Program, and kind of want to walk folks through a little bit of what we're doing out here today and why we're here. Obviously, you can see what has captured all of the public's imagination. And it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're 5 years old or 55 years old, you're down here watching this viaduct come down. The reason we're doing this project is because the viaduct has been deemed seismically deficient and potentially unstable in an earthquake, so it was necessary that the structure come down, and the solution to replace the viaduct was to build a tunnel, which we've all hopefully all driven through and got to see that for the first time, and I go out of my way to try to use the tunnel. But what we're doing here is that's sort of that next stage, which is to remove the viaduct and then eventually restore the waterfront to what it looked like over 65 years ago. And there's another follow-on project the city's delivering to reconstruct the surface streets, add bicycle, sidewalk, lanes, reestablish metro bus lane south of here, south of Yesler, south of Columbia. So that's all coming soon, but in order to do that work, we have to take the viaduct down. And so that's the project that's been going on now. We selected a contractor last summer, that's Kiewit Infrastructure West, and they have hired a couple of subs, and they're in the process of taking the viaduct down. And it's as you can imagine, it takes a lot of time it took a lot of time to build it. It's taking a lot of time to demolish it. And so one of the things we're paying most attention to is the safety of the public, the safety of the people walking around it, standing just a few feet away from it, driving by it. Of course, we have to protect the buildings that we're next to as we demolish it, and utilities that are underneath the structure, underneath that road, protect those as well. So there's a lot of things that we're paying attention to, noise and dust and public safety, and those are all parts of why this project it's just taking a while to do, and the contractor's getting much more efficient as we've gotten started now with how they're dismantling it. But it's obviously captured everybody's imagination. It's quite an exciting project, and it's all part of this grander scheme to replace the viaduct with a tunnel and then rebuild the waterfront in a way that is very inviting to the public and tourism. It encourages tourism and economic development. It certainly is a good freight corridor and a great way to get into downtown if you're not using the tunnel. So I'll kind of end with that. Is there anything that you want me to add on the overall program?
No, I think we're good.
All right, we'll let Alex talk about it.
Hi, my name is Alex Prentice. I work in communications for WSDOT's contractor for demolition, Kiewit. I am here to answer everyone's burning questions about demolition from the contractor's perspective. And so without further ado, I would like to open it up to all of you to answer questions that you might have.
Awesome.
So the first question that you've asked is, when will the work happen in Pioneer Square? So our first priority has been moving from south to north, from Columbia Street all the way up to the railroad area to get everything ready for the waterfront project that's going to follow on our heels. But we will come back down and start working our way down from Yesler in mid-June and complete all the way past King onto Railroad Way by the end of July. So what we're looking at here is the tail end of the entire demolition process. This is when the superstructure, so the viaduct itself, has been knocked down and removed. The rubble has been hauled out, and now what we're working on is excavating the footing. So that's the part of the column that lies beneath the surface. And we excavate those, paying special attention to utilities. Then we backfill them. So we fill them back up with dirt, we pave over it, and we restore the area to its original condition, which in most cases means that we're just fixing it up to make sure that it's drivable, because it's probably going to be mostly ripped up after we leave, and then repainting, striping so that it can be used for parking again. Restoration itself can take anywhere from about 2 to 4 weeks, and there are different degrees of access during that time. So you may still see work going on like you are here, but the street over there is open. So it really varies what restoration consists of, but it is a longer process, and again, it is very dependent on utilities and on subsurface conditions. We have archaeological monitors out who are there when we're doing anything below ground. And then after we're done, we move out, we pull our fences, and then we turn it back over to you.
Okay, so what are we seeing right now?
So what we're seeing right now is the rubble of the viaduct. So this is a mixture mostly of concrete and of rebar. And it's now being hauled down to Terminal 25 to get crushed and to then go back up and fill Battery Street Tunnel. We also keep a certain amount of rubble on site to act as an absorbent pad as the viaduct continues to come down. So we try to have at least 3 to 4 feet of rubble under the surface where we're working at all times, and this also helps prevent any damage to utilities and roadways and foundations. It was on the list.
It was on the list.
We get that question all the time. Why didn't we use dynamite?
So we do get that question a lot, and certainly years ago when the Kingdom came down and people were thinking about that as, well, why can't you just implode the structure? And I mean, there's a number of safety issues with regard to that approach. We want this to be a kind of a surgical method of removing the viaduct instead of just setting off some charges and hoping that nobody gets hurt, nothing gets damaged. It's not a practical solution. Part of it is that the weight of the structure would collapse some of the underground utilities and could damage the buildings, and it's not as controlled as what we're trying to do here, and that's very important to the state, to the contractor, that we don't break anything else other than the structure we're trying to demolish. So there was we joked about it a long time ago about, taking it down with 4 sticks of dynamite, and it'd be down. We wouldn't have months and months of all this. It'd still be cleanup, but it's not really practical.
Of demolition is when we're starting to eat the girders after we've slotted the top deck with what is essentially a giant jackhammer. This is a machine, it's specially designed by Firma to crunch and punch these girders. During that work, as you can see, it does raise dust, but we have multiple sprayers going, and it's also raining, which helps a lot with the dust mitigation. In addition to that, we have this black netting that's suspended by a crane that moves along with all the work that we do to protect buildings and also to add as an extra dust screen. Moving on to the section that they've already done, you can see where they've crunched and munched these outside girders, and then they're going to be coming in and getting ready to remove the lower deck. And then it looks like this, like a parking, until it all comes down. So as you can see, during the demolition, we have to block certain side streets so that we are able to demolish safely that entire space. This means that access will be blocked to Alaskan Way. So as a result, between Western and Alaskan Way, we often have detours so that there's a local access we often put in a two-way access on one-way streets so that cars can get in and turn around and then get out. So the Marion Street pedestrian bridge, as we know it now, is eventually going to be replaced with a permanent structure linking First Avenue with Coleman Dock. However, in the meantime, there's going to be a temporary pedestrian bridge that's going to link where you see right now on Western and Marion all the way around onto Columbia and to Coleman Dock. In order to do this, we have drilled shafts here for piles, and then we are using some of the columns that remain from the Alaskan Way Viaduct's Columbia ramp area to build a temporary pedestrian bridge that's going to stay in place for, again, about 4 to 5 years until the permanent pedestrian bridge is built. So that means that once we're done with this bridge and we've connected it to Coleman Dock, which is slated for June, July, August time period, we will then come back and demolish this Marion Street pedestrian bridge that you see now, as well as the viaduct that is left adjacent and over it.
Okay.
So as you can see here, the viaduct is built out of 2 decks and columns and caps at the end of each span. So the way that we approach mechanical demolition of this is we take a hoe ram, which is essentially a giant jackhammer mounted to an excavator, to sort of bite out the deck sections on the top deck. We then take a different type of equipment, an excavator with a processor that crunches and munches the girders, which are those beams that support the deck. And then we go down and we do the same process for the lower deck. And then we come back with our biggest machine and we munch and crunch the columns and caps that are left.
How many machines do you have out?
So we have about 10 large excavators at any given time, and then 10 pieces of support equipment. So you'll see down there anything from moving rubble around to moving materials around, excavating the foundations. All of those require different machines. But if you look down there, further to the north where excavation is happening, you have about 6 machines that you can see. All of the white and green are from Firma, the demolition subcontractor.